Hey guys, how you doing today? This is David Lucas back here again. Welcome back to my channel. And now today I'm coming at you guys for a video, and I know I've been slack on the videos a little bit this year. I know, I get it. I slack sometimes and I come back and do really good and then slack again. I get it. That happens. But not to worry, guys. I'm back here again to do another video, guys. A video review of something that I've been actually really looking forward to. And you guys see my trailer reactions for it. I did a whole trailer reaction for it and everything during DC fandom. It's been a property and a TV show that I've been looking forward to for a really long time, but been having a little bit of reservations for it. And that show is none other than Peacemaker. It stars John Cena and is basically like the sequel to the Suicide Squad movie that we just seen. If you guys want to know my thoughts on that movie, go check out my review right now. You go check it out. It's on my channel. Long story short, I did really like the movie a lot. I thought it was honestly an amazing movie. It's probably one of my favorite comic book movies in general. One of my favorite comic book movies of all time. I really love James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Coming out of that movie was just one of the stars of John Cena as Peacemaker, Christopher Smith's Peacemaker. John Cena has, been a WWE star for forever. I've always been a fan of him, even back in the WWE times. I never been really a fan of his movies. I always felt that, like, in every role he's in, he never was a really good actor. But something I did notice is that from time and time after again, he did keep proving himself. He did keep on getting progressively better and better, and I realized this throughout some of his stuff. Suicide Squad, I feel like James Gunn just completely did what he did with, Dave Bautista in Guardians of the Galaxy, and completely opened John Cena up and basically showed us what he can do. And I gotta say, I loved him as Peacemaker. And now we are just like basically halfway through, I feel like, at this point. I think it's safe to say we're at the halfway through point. We just passed episode 5, and I believe there's like 8 or 9 episodes. So let's just say we're halfway through right now. And I want me to just say my thoughts so far on Peacemaker, on James Gunn's Peacemaker, starring John Cena, is that I absolutely love it. I love this show. Like, not just like this show, I love it. To me, this is probably like up there with Daredevil and Batman the Animated Series as one of the best comic book shows of all time. So let's get on to basically what I think about the show and what I just really love about this show, because I'm just really excited to start talking about it. Right off the bat, something that, is just so great about this show is the opening. And I gotta mention it. Like, you can't do a review of the show without mentioning the opening. And I'm just gonna say right off the bat, the opening is probably one of the best openings to any show in general. Like, it's up there with the Sopranos opening, the Batman Animated Series opening. It's really up there as probably top 3 best, not even comic book intros, just intros of all time. The way you have them all dancing, the whole cast is dancing there with the straight face dancing. And yes, every single time the show comes on and I watch it, I dance to the song. Judge me if you want. It's just so perfect. It just basically captures the spirit of the show. It captures the tone of the show. It captures basically everything that you are going to have going into the show. The weirdness, the craziness, the awkwardness. It's just all in there in the show. And the opening pretty much captures it all. And that's why I love the opening so much. And you just can't skip it. You can't skip the opening. Something too in the show that you just can't go out without saying is that John Cena, again, he's great in the show. Like I was saying before, like, James Gunn just knows how to, bring out the actor in actors. Like, he just knows how to do it, especially with wrestler actors. And I think it has something to do with James Gunn, being a fan of the WWE. Just is already like a fan of these characters in general, so he knows how to bring out the character in them. And he done it for Dave Bautista, and he's doing it for John Cena. And I just can't wait to see who else he does it for, because really, John Cena is so believable in this role, like in the emotional scenes that you have with him. There's certain scenes where you have very emotional, where he's like laying down in bed and he's just saying stuff. He's like beating himself up about shit, and he's really, hating on himself, putting himself down. And it's like, wow, like, you believe it. Like, you actually feel that emotional impact. And it's something, me personally, I actually had a personal moment in this show of when John Cena was, kind of, talking himself down and beating himself up. It's something I have done before. I'm sure that a lot of people on here have done before, and it's something very relatable and personal. And it could have been done in a way that was very cheesy and cheap, but the way how John Cena just performs that scene, perfect. Even in certain scenes with his dad in the show, when we get into emotional scenes with his dad, when he's having conversations about his dad, like, you really believe that he gets that his dad's a bad person in the show, which we're going to get into is about his dad, but he also loves him because he's his dad, and you really just feel those moments in here with him. And again, the comedy moments, every comedy beat, he just nails it. And again, that has to do with James Gunn, but writing the comedy. But John Cena just nails the performance. It's about the performance and writing. The writing can be great, but the performance could suck it and just trashes off. But John Cena just performs it great, and I love it. Vigilante, played by Freddie Storm or Strama, or I'm sorry, I could be doing his name wrong, I'm sorry. But Vigilante in this show, now he is a character that when I saw the trailers, I was very skeptical about it. Because you see, I liked Vigilante from the comic books. I always liked this comic book interpretation. He always was a more serious, kind of depressed type of character, Adrian Chase. He was a lawyer and stuff like that, a DA, and his family got killed by some guy he put in jail. And then he went on, dressed up like the Vigilante, and basically went insane and started murdering, criminals and all that stuff, but to avenge his family being dead. Now, this Adrian Chase is a little bit different. This Adrian Chase is taking more of a comedy route, more comedical route. And it's something that when I saw the trailers at first, I was a little bit thrown aback, like, I don't know how I'm going to like this, because this is the way how he looks, like, he looks really ripped from the comic books, but the performance is a little bit different. But as the show started going on, and as we started seeing him perform in the show, and started seeing his lines and what he does, and his kind of purpose in the whole show, I gotta say, he's probably one of my favorite characters out of the whole show. Like, I love Vigilante. Like, I seriously love Vigilante a lot. Like, he's awesome. I love what they did with him, and at the same time, yeah, he is a little bit different from the comic books. He is not as serious or as kind of the way how he was. He's not a DA, he's a busboy in this one. He's kind of like a fan of Peacemaker. He wants to be like Peacemaker. He looks up to Peacemaker type of thing. And they do him a little bit differently in the show. But at the same time, he feels so good and is so perfect. And it's almost like I prefer this version of Vigilante over the comic book version. Because to me, the comic book version feels like almost like a DC Daredevil type of ripoff. But in this version, he seems like his own character, his own thing. And I heard some people go around and say he's kind of like a Deadpool ripoff. No, he's not. Okay, maybe he sounds like Deadpool. Okay, his voice sounds like Deadpool, I can make a Deadpool voice too sometimes, it's like not really... It's not that big of a deal that his voice sounds like Deadpool. And yeah, he's a little bit funny like Deadpool too, but their comedies are so different. One of them is fourth wall breaking, the other isn't fourth wall breaking. They are two completely different characters in this show. And there's this one scene too that I really love at Vigilante where I'm trying to think of a way to not spoil it, but Peacemaker's dad is in prison for some reason, and Vigilante overhears Peacemaker talking about his dad, talk about his past with his dad. So that kind of convinces Vigilante to go and get arrested and get thrown into the same jail that his dad is in. And he basically confronts his dad about some stuff. And just that whole scene in general is so good, and it's performed so good, and it's just, I love that scene. Like, it is so good, and it's so perfect, and it made me realize that Vigilante is a top character of this whole show. Like, Vigilante is just perfect, and I love what they're doing, and I hope that they keep Vigilante later on going in the DCEU, because it'll be cool to see him pop up in different things and interact with different characters in the DCEU. Whole supporting cast in this is great in this show. I really love the whole supporting cast, from Abadeo to Harcourt in here, and to Morn, and even Economos. I love you, Economos. All just a great group of characters in here, and you see that at first. I love how at first, like, they're all kind of misfits. They all kind of like, we don't want to do this. We don't want to work with each other, do the job, or work for this guy. But here the fuck we are. This is what we get for, doing what we did in the Suicide Squad movie. But as the show goes on, and even up to the last episode that we were on in episode 5, you start to feel that they are forming a friendship together. They are forming all together a true bond together, and you really feel that throughout these characters. And I love how each character has their own kind of thing going on. They have their own story going on. They have their own kind of tasks and kind of human things they have to get through, like Peacemaker's going through his stuff, and then you have Harcourt going through her own things, and then you have Abadeo going through things with her wife. So you have John Economos, who's his own complete character, they all have their own things going on in the show, but yet they all kind of converge and kind of mesh together in a really good group that works really well, and that's something that doesn't work as much in shows, you know what I mean? Peacemaker's dad in the show is someone who you love, hate him. Like, he is a horrible person, probably one of the most worst kind of human beings possible, and you hate him as much as possible. But you just love the performance that they give in this movie, you just love the performance that they give off in this show. Played by the Terminator and Terminator 2, August Smith, he is something that's horrible. He's a racist, horrible human being. He treats Peacemaker like crap. He abused him as growing up, you can see. Even abused him, as an adult. And at that one scene, too, that's really, messed up, but does give a lot of character, is that one scene where they're sitting at the kitchen table and they kind of bond over somebody's dad torturing another person when he was telling the story of Bloodsport. That Bloodsport told him what he went through with his dad when he was a kid. Bond over that, but then his dad gets assumedly pissed off at him when he figures out that was the same guy that, shot him and put Peacemaker in the hospital. And then he just says the worst things possible to him out through the show. And it just gets worse and worse because when you first hear him say stuff, you're like, oh, wow, that's coming from your dad. But it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse what he says. And it's just like, wow, this guy he's horrible. He's horrible. And then you start to end up realizing why Peacemaker is the way he is. You start kind of being like, okay, I get why a person who had a father like this were to grow up and be like this. And you really get that a lot. And I really can't wait to know what they do with him, because now he's performing. Now he's a role. Now this is a different role than he was in the comic books, but they're combining two characters in one. It's called the White Dragon, who is, a white supremacist, racist supervillain in the comic books. And it kind of goes, hand to hand with who Peacemaker's dad is in the comic books and in the show, because he is both the Nazi in the show and in here. So it works, kind of how it's combining these characters. So I'm really interested to see where they go with this character and what they do with him. If he's going to become the main villain, or is he maybe going to team up with Peacemaker, or is he going to become maybe a villain going later on in the series if they end up making a season 2 and 3? Is he going to be a villain that carries on? It'll be really cool to see what they do with him. Something, too, that I really like in the show is the way how they overall connect to the DCEU, how they have little mentions and little kind of, throwaway, lines about other villains in the DCU, but, Batman and Superman they mention, and in Aquaman, too, they mention a little bit, and then they have, a little bit mention of Batmite in here, so I guess Batmite is actually DCEU canon, which is freaking amazing. Only fucking James Gunn would bring in Batmite into the cinematic universe, and he did it. But the way how they connect is so much better than... And again, you guys know I do love BVS, and I do appreciate the Snyder movies, but one complaint I did have was the way how Snyder tried to connect the overall DCU. It was not good. This is the way to do it. Just throw some little throwaway mentions. Make it just natural, that, okay, these people exist in the world. Yes, all this stuff happened. Yes, it's all connected. We don't need to see them. We don't need to see where they're at. We don't need to do a zoom to them. No. They're famous. Let's mention them. And that's it. And I love that. And I just like the way how they overall connect to the DCU and build the DCU, because it really does seem like they're building the DCU within just these little mentions, and that's awesome. Now, this is something that I really gotta say, finally I gotta say that I love about this show, is just the overall comedy, the heart, the soul, and just that plot that's going on with it. It has a mystery going on it with the butterflies. There's a juicy mystery. There's, betrayal going on. There's character moments in here where you don't know how a character is going to end up. There's characters, being conflicted about their choices they're making in here. There's characters changing and having big character developments. This gives everything that needs to be a good show. And that is just what I love about this show. It has everything in here. Good characters, good story, good villains, good mystery, good juicy kind of details, that world builds. It just has everything in here. On top of that, great acting, great action. You know, this show just gives you everything you want from a show in general. And that's why this show is probably one of my favorite comic book shows of all time. And it is definitely up there as my favorite show that's on right now, at least. I just love this show. I look forward to every week watching it. It's something I really like a lot, and to be honest, I gotta say, I think the MCU should really take notes on what James Gunn is doing with this show. Because if this is any indication of the future of the DCEU and the future of the DCEU shows, and maybe the Batman shows that are going to go on there with the Penguin and GCPD, then oh boy, I can't wait, and I am totally in, because just 5 episodes in, and I'm already in love with this show. Like, really, this show just needs to have just, like, all the rest just be horrible episodes that go nowhere for this show to end up bad, because this show is just great. I love this show. So, guys, let me know down in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts on Peacemaker, guys. I really love to know your guys' thoughts on Peacemaker. I am really loving the show, if you guys can't tell already. So, I really am curious to know your guys' opinion. Do you like the show? Do you don't like the show? Are you agree with me on it? Or are you like in the middle with the show? Let me know down in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts on it, because I really like to know. As guys, if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You know, I always appreciate it all the time. And until next time, guys, eat peace, motherfucker.